And before we jump right into the student panel, I want to give you guys a little sneak peek of an upcoming announcement that Foundry is going to be promoting the next few days. And that is that we are about to launch a new program called First Year Free, specifically for students. And what that means is that full-time students will be able to get access to a 1-year free license to our education collective, which includes Nuke Studio, Mari, Cara VR, Modo, and Katana, as well as 3-to-Light renders. So all of that will be at your fingertips, and the idea is that really it's an opportunity for you to explore various products completely free of charge. And so it's on you guys to bring your curiosity and your drive, and it's on us to make sure that you get the tools that you need to be successful in your career. So with that, I'm going to transition away from just Foundry products and really get going on this panel, which is all about breaking into the VFX industry, the global VFX industry, if you will. We have an amazing panel of speakers with experience from all over the world, different aspects of the industry. So it's my pleasure to invite these 4 up onto the stage, and I'll explain. You guys can all come up. So right here to my left, we have Carlos Baena, who we were very lucky to just get to see a little screening of his most recent work called Lenoria. But Carlos Baena is the director at NightWheel Pictures, as well as co-founder of Animation Mentor, the online animation school and cloud-based virtual platform Artella. Carlos previously worked at ILM and Pixar Animation Studios on films such as Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Episode 2, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, I could go on, many others. So please join me in welcoming Carlos. We have Deb Stone, who's the Director of Recruiting and Talent Development at Blue Sky Studios. She has a wealth of experience finding and hiring CG artists for companies like Walt Disney and Blue Sky Studios, and she holds very valuable insights into breaking into the industry and how to best position yourself against other candidates. So join me in welcoming Deb Stone. Next we have Vlad, who I've already joked I struggle with pronouncing his last name. I'm just going to keep it at Vlad. He's a compositing 2D supervisor at MPC, where his work includes Aquaman, The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, Detective Pikachu, and many more. He previously worked at Framestore, Cinesite, and various Russian-based studios for over 18 years. So join me in welcoming Vlad. And last but not least, we have Sandra Balej, is a digital effects supervisor at Method Studios, where she's currently working on guiding her team through both the technical and creative challenges of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Prior to Method, she worked at Pixamundo, Uncharted Territory, ExoZ as well as some others over her 10-year VFX career. So join me in welcoming Sandra. So the format of this is that I'm going to kick things off with just a few questions, and I'll moderate it for a bit, and then we're definitely going to leave ample time for you guys to ask your own questions. So definitely spend some time thinking up of whatever you want to ask them. And then at the end, we will also leave a few minutes for you guys to network individually, either amongst yourselves and with all of us. So you can really feel free to dive into whatever questions you want. So with that, I just want to get things going. It would be great to just have a few words from each of you in how you broke into the industry, and if there were any key pivotal moments in your careers that really tipped you one way or the other for initially breaking into the VFX industry. Does anyone want to kick it off?
At me. Okay. All right, so 10 years ago, I was at VFS. I graduated 2007. That's 10 years ago. 11, right? So I think it was 3D 70. I think you're probably in the hundreds right now. And when I graduated, I went back to Germany, got my first job right out of school, and then just worked at a TV house, really just gaining the experience. Because what I did not want to be is one of the many VFS students that just graduated in Vancouver, and then there were so many, so I thought I'd try my luck in Germany first, where it's just a bit more rare to have a Vancouver Film School student. So I was really lucky. I kind of always say that I work really hard for my luck, but I was also really lucky. It was a TV studio that was working on Fusion. I never had touched Fusion before. We all had like Nuke and After Effects in school, but it just was, there were not many Fusion compers back then. That's why I kind of got that job at uncharted territory. It was a Fusion house, and that's when it started to take off for me. Because, from TV, it's hard to build a reel that is like breaking you into kind of movies, especially Hollywood. So it just happened to be that there were not many Fusion comps around and they needed one. So that was my break. Pure luck, really. And a bit of skill as well, I think. And then I went to all around the globe, kind of, because I really liked that aspect. I always wanted to come back to Vancouver after Vancouver Film School. So after that, I went to Beijing. I was working there to teach the comp team there. So that was my first time I got into lead experience. And then I got back here to Vancouver, and I've been at Method ever since. Started out there as a junior compositor and just worked my way up. Kind of was a lead compositor, then compositing supervisor, and then just recently became a DFX super on Ant-Man, which is now finished. So we've done that. And now I'm here. Yeah.
Well, I started in 1999 back in Russia, and I kind of self-educated. There was no schools, no knowledge, internet by dial-up. You probably don't know what is it even. Yeah, you need to call by phone, and if your mother pick up the phone and call her friend, you lose connections and stuff. So I found a job in newspaper. Yeah, it's kind of rare as well nowadays. I went from maybe 20 studios. Everyone was laughing at me because I didn't have showreel. I had some stupid images, built it in 3D Max and Photoshop. And after 20 interviews, I actually get into one studio and I started doing simple jobs, scanning images for the 2D animation, commercials and stuff. After 1.5 years, I opened my own studio because I love it, I learn it. I was studying at university. I'm an engineer by education, so kind of I have technical background. Always I was okay with that. I started programming at the age of 8 years old. I was lucky to have a computer by the time. I trained myself to see images and to learn artistic side of it, along with like directors working together. And like first my kind of color correction was horrible, but that's my kind of break-in, like never give up, I would say. And I was still needed to find a job. I knew that I want something like that. I didn't know any specifics about what I'm gonna do, but I started from animation, and then we opened another studio, which we combined with TV series together, and started doing visual effects as well. One of the first movies, maybe some of you have seen it, it was a Night Watch. It's one of the famous Russian movies back to 2002. Well, yeah, that's kind of it.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. So I started I broke into animation as an assistant at Disney Animation back in 2005. I really didn't have any animation experience. I had a little bit of experience working for a talent agency, and when the job opportunity came up to be an assistant in recruiting, I thought, well, all right, I have some experience working with talent. I can work with talent this way. Interviewed, connected with the manager at that time, and she hired me basically on the spot, so that worked out. Then I grew my my skills, understanding animation and the industry through my time at Disney, and when I found out that there was an animation studio on the East Coast named Blue Sky. I was like, oh my God, I can move back to be near my family and stay in the animation industry. That's amazing. So it was my goal for 5 years to leave Disney and go to Blue Sky. And I think just a lesson to be learned is always stay in touch with your connections and your recruiters, because I met the recruiter over at Blue Sky and just became friends with her. And through the years, we would talk, and when I'd go home, she was like, why don't you come in and meet these people at Blue Sky? And so I started kind of doing that. And when the job opportunity came up to move there, I was, one of the first people I thought of. So I moved there in 2011, and I've been there ever since.
I didn't start on movies until 2001. I moved from Spain, where I was studying law, in the mid-90s to San Francisco to do art. And from there I learned computer graphics. At the time, I learned through Silicon Graphics. There wasn't home computers to do 3D. I really wish there was. Or YouTube, or a lot of things that are these days, And basically, right after college, I was working on commercials for about 3 years. But I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I was doing from roto to texturing to modeling. I suck at all those things. I'm horrible. I wanted to animate, and I wanted to make movies. So after every day of going to work, I would, at that time it was late 2000s, late 90s, I was able to get a home computer after school, and I started working on animation exercises for like at least a full year. I just, I wanted to get out of commercials and work on movies. So at the time I was living with 5 roommates, and they would always joke, because they would always, go out, and they would be like, man, we just see a lot of smoke coming out of your room. Like, what are you doing there? Because I would literally come home from work late and then work until like late hours. So for me, it was the only way. I knew with my commercial reel, I was not ever going to get a job as an animator anywhere, really. Not ILM, not Pixar, So I just put the time, and then I have friends from college that I would back every week and show them the exercises, and then they will give me harsh feedback. So they ended up hiring me at ILM to work on Jurassic Park 3 as my first movie job. So.
Thank you guys for sharing all that. And Carlos, it's interesting to hear you say that you had this animation show reel, and you were really worried about whether that was going to enable you to get jobs elsewhere. I want to elaborate on that and really get into the meat of this. And my question for all of you guys, for the panelists here, is the show reel still the end-all be-all? And if so, what distinguishes a good show reel from a great show reel? Who wants to start it off with this one?
I can start.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, being HUD at MPC HUD of compositing for almost 2 years, I went through a lot of showreels, and what I learned from it is when we're reviewing showreels, we're looking for particular skills. If you're talking about, for example, compositing, right? It's what I don't care about movies. What type of movies is? No one cares, honestly. What we're looking is the technical achievements in that showreel, how good the keying is done, how good CGI is integrated. And we're looking for particular skills, right? It's keying, compositing, color correction, CGI integration. And during the interview for sure, we ask questions like specific things, because we want to understand how much actually person knows. Because showreel shows collaborative work of all departments and feedback from supervisors and stuff, and people decided to put something into showreel. It's not only their work, right? It's lots of people did that work as well to make it happen. But during interview already we kind of opening little boxes of like knowledge, how much actually people knows. And it's important to show your skills. never listen music. We don't have time for that because we don't have time. Don't make a cut. Don't make it animate, whatever. We don't care about this. It's a technical thing. You can make it for your friends and have fun with it. It's cool. For us, it's time. Never make a huge introduction. Vladislav, Akhtyrskiy, compositor, like 5 minutes introduction. No, it's a waste of time. People usually just don't watch it. Because we don't have time. Because if I need to review 30 show reels a day, multiply it by 3 minutes, it's a lot, and I have other work to do. And I'm human being, and everyone is human being. I want a coffee, I need a cigarette break or something else, and I'm busy with other tasks. So the show reel needs to show you skills right away from the first shot. And most common mistake is people don't understand how to order it. In the first shots needs to show you skills, technical skills. Again, no one cares what type of movie it is, even if no one's seen it. But if it's great compositing, you have bigger chances to get into the industry, to get into the company, along with CV. CV is another topic where it needs to be clean, short, what you did, but it needs to be enough information to tell, I did that in that company, in this role, in this position. Or I studied. When I look at the show, like CVs from students, and I see producer, VFX supervisor, like, okay, I got it, yes, you did your movie, but come on, guys, it's different, right? Concentrate on something, what you want to do. And that's kind of like my feedback on it.
I'd say also, your show reel isn't the end-all, be-all, but it is the most important part of applying for a job. Because if your show reel's not good, then unfortunately, there's no way we can hire you because we don't feel like you can actually accomplish the work. And half the time also, you're not gonna be able to meet the recruiters or the hiring managers in person, right? So the only thing that we're gonna see from you at first is your show reel. Of course, your resume and your cover letter, but that all kind of comes after making sure that your show reel actually is something that we feel is gonna be at a certain level and a bar that's gonna hit for the artistic and technical needs that we have for the role. So that, I'd say always make sure that that's, polished and that you know your audience that you're applying to, because from an animation standpoint, we're looking for one type of reel, and a visual effects house might be looking for a different kind of reel, a commercial house might be looking for something else. So also know the audience that you're applying to and make sure that you might have, a specialist reel for one and a generalist reel for another, and you know who you're sending those to. So that's an important part.
Yeah, just to add a couple of things. This all might sound really scary, but it's really not as much, because you might think, oh, but have not worked on movies. How am I supposed to build a reel? Is a school reel enough? As Vlad says, we really don't care what the movie is from. If you take footage from one of those websites online, like VFX PhD, if you complete those courses and you really put all your effort in and show what you can do, we look at that as well. So it does not have to be an explosion and like a robot. It can be simple, because when we hire juniors, and in the beginning, we give you shots for quantity. We give you easy shots that we just need to put out really quickly. So if you have simple shots in your reel that have really good quality, and maybe it's a tiny sequence of stuff that shows us, okay, we can hire this person to put all these shots through the pipe really quickly. So don't be too scared to build your reel with student material. So we do look at that as well.
A little tip. Do your research, and if you don't know how to put a reel together, there's so much information online and so many people who have their reels online. Go look at the credits of a film. And at least I know in animation we usually credit, interns. Find those intern names. Go research who those people are. Look for their reels. Contact them on LinkedIn if you can't find their reel and say, hey, I'm a student. I'm just trying to figure out what a good reel looks like. Can I see your reel? Because then at least you know from the bar at which we hired an intern at, and you can kind of start to see what those reels are and what kind of level of quality that we're looking for. So just think about how to kind of get out there and do your own research on that kind of stuff.
And don't make it longer than 2 minutes.
No, don't.
You can, but most likely
Won't
you just
watch it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what everybody has said. I mean, I will only add, show the real to best friends, people that have your best interests at heart. Don't be precious about it, because you might not be able to see certain things that other people see with fresh eyes. I've seen, back in college, it's been a long time, but there will be some people that's like, I finished the reel. Oh, you want to share it? Not yet. It's not. It's gonna be good. Like, don't get too precious about it, because ultimately you're showing it to a fresh audience. And if you have good friends or colleagues or people that really care for you, they'll tell you, out of those 10 pieces, that one and that one are the weakest. I wouldn't put in there. I know you want to display your entire career on your demo reel. I wouldn't. Just take those out. It's going to make shorter, it's better. And people, you want to leave people wanting to see more, not bored out of the reel.
Those are valuable tips. So that's great insight into the show reel. Let's say you've now landed the interview. Wherever you've applied, the studio has said, all right, this show reel is up to the bar, and we want to interview you. What is the next, how should a candidate prepare for that interview? And are there, after the show reel, how else can they stand out and be successful now that they've been given that chance for the interview?
Go on.
Who wants to start? A couple of things. Well, be prepared for your interview. I always joke about this, but don't be on a bus when we've scheduled a phone interview with you. I'm not kidding, that happened one time. So you can't hear the person, right? Also, know the studio and a little background about the studio. Do a little research on the people that are interviewing you, so you could potentially talk to what their projects have been. But also, most importantly, know yourself, know what's on your reel, and be able to speak to what is on your reel and your experience. And if it's a technical, more technical position, know the technical side of what could be on your resume or your reel, and be able to speak to that. Because there's nothing worse than kind of getting caught up in a question where you don't feel like you can actually navigate your way through that question.
Yeah, I think also back up the statements that you make on your CV with examples, because it's always so easy to say, I'm a team player, I'm easy to work with, but what does that mean? Because, we hire you guys because we need your help, not the other way around, right? We won't have time. I mean, we will teach you the ropes, but it's going to be a really high stress, super fast paced, so we won't have time to teach you all the things right away. So when you say I'm easy to work with, just back up. Like at school, when my professor or my teachers told me to change something, I did not say, oh, but it's my work, it's my art, like explain how you can deal with feedback and what happened while you were building your work, how you can demonstrated that you had actually been able to do good teamwork, always kind of back it up with your own experiences that you have had in school.
Yeah, exactly. If you are on an interview in a company, that means that we want to hire you. It's a fact. We just need to make sure, because hiring process for companies 50-50 chances, especially if it's a new person, we don't know. Whatever you say, we take it seriously. When people mention, oh, I do have programming skills, and then it's end up that, oh, actually it was 15 years ago and it was only for half a year, and actually I can't programming. Well, that's the first slide coming out. Everything what we'll see after interview, in next months, we'll see everything what you said was truth and what was lie. People sometimes exaggerate it. It's okay. Sometimes a little bit, why not? People do that, we're human beings. But just be close to reality of what you can do. Don't be shy saying, I don't know it. I'm happy to learn it, especially when you're just getting into industry. You can't know everything. I can't know everything. And I easily say, oh, I don't know it. Cool, well, show me. That's interesting. And again, remember about the thing that we're humans, right? It's our jobs to interview you. It's your job to find a job. It's another job, right? To find a job, be prepared for that. Just remember about just being easy human being. That's what everyone wants to be in a team. easy to deal with. And prepare your CV in a way like you know what you're talking about. I can ask tricky questions and people can sweat on my interviews. And they even told me like it's hard, like you asking tough questions. Yeah, because I'm looking for particular people with particular skills. And every studio probably do the same because we're interested to bring you in.
I'm just going to say also that attitude is everything. So when you go into an interview, just be humble. Like, no one wants to work with a know-it-all. Be humble, be confident on what you do, but there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. So just be aware of that.
Such a fine line between arrogance and humility, I agree. Is there anything a candidate can do that can just do or say that can set alarm bells ringing and you're just really put off?
Yeah, I think probably when you want to be, when you ask, so when can I be a senior compositor? Or when we ask, so what level do you think you are? Oh, I think I'm a mid-level. It's kind of that. The thing is, you might be amazing, and you will get there really quickly. But it's just we can't hire you as like right out of school. It's just we have to first find out how good you actually are. So that usually sets off a couple of alarm bells.
Sometimes people make stupid jokes. Yeah, sometimes they even cross the line and they go crazy. They're super confident, and that's wrong. We all can make jokes with our friends, right? But we coming to work environment, just be professional.
That just made me think of the situation that happened. But be professional, especially like when you're inside a studio. You're interviewing inside. Like we had this person who was a friend of someone who worked with us, and on the way out, the manager, the production manager of the department was walking the person out, and the guy stopped at a friend's desk and drew something phallic on the person's desk, and it was like, what are you doing? Like, I know you're not in the actual interview talking, but like, you're still like, you still have to act professional the entire time you're, on. But the other part, the thing that I originally wanted to say before that came into my mind, was don't speak badly about another studio. So even though you may have had a bad experience at another studio, there's a way in which you can kind of phrase things politically correct to kind of soften it a little bit, or you don't have to even bring that up, I guess. Just talk about what you've done and what your accomplishments are, but you don't need to speak poorly about another studio, because even though we are all potentially competitors, there's still a friendly atmosphere in the studio. So.
Yeah, we know each other. This world is really small. Actually,
so small.
we can do background checking on almost everyone. Mm-hmm. And we can be checked, all of us. So we know, it's easier. You can call to Singapore, it's like, hey, do you know this guy? Oh, yeah, I know him. Great. Nice. It's easy nowadays, especially.
One thing I forgot to say is always be honest about your work. Like, never, ever, ever put anything from somebody else. Because, like Vlad just said, like it's a small industry, and I've seen a couple times where a real link will be passed around the studios. It's like, hey, you guys know this person? Yeah, good animator, but why is that shot there? Like that shot was done by somebody else. So you catch a liar like instantly, and just be honest about the work. And also, maybe this is just the animator in me, but just be aware of your posture on the interview. Nobody wants to interview somebody that is like, and I've seen it, and it sounds like a joke, but I've seen it, like I said earlier, like just, people want to hire people that are willing to learn, that are willing to work with other people, not somebody that is willing to isolate themselves because they're too cool for a school.
I just want to chime in on the real thing. There's a lot of times where you might be working with a couple of people in your student project where you may end up with the same shots on your reel, but just be very specific about what you actually did on that reel. So it's okay to, have, but we often see, like in our internship program, we'll see the same reels, or at least the same shots from a couple of different people. So it's important to say, like, I did the compositing, or I did the materials on that blue hat. So that way we know, okay, that person did that and that person did that on that shot. So just be specific.
Yeah, I think shot breakdowns, along with your CVs are quite helpful as well. Just attach it, say exactly what you've done. It also shows that you know what you're talking about a bit better.
Yeah, put numbers in your showreel. You have shot number 1, number 2, especially if you have for an interview, it will be very easy to discuss topics like, shot number 3. If we have showreel breakdown, it's easy, we can read, but we will ask questions as well. Help, I keep saying it on, like, in Russia, I go to lots of conferences for many years, and I keep saying it, guys, help other people to hire you. It's a job. Help them to do their job. Make it easy for us to see from the first page of CV and showreel breakdown, helps all prepared to hire you. Help us. And that will be way easier for us to hire you, because we'll spend less time understanding who are you.
All right, shifting gears a little bit. I think from the outside, we often have this portrayal that the industry is really glamorous, and you always get to work on coolest shots. I want the honest truth here. Let's put the glamour aside. What's it really like on those long hours? What are some of the aspects of working in the industry that goes untold? And what's the hardest part about working in this industry?
Well, before I forget, my first job in a movie was in Jurassic Park 3, and it was this epic show with all these big dinosaurs, and they had the big music, the Jurassic Park theme, and it was huge and everything, and I went with my friends to the theater to see the movie, and I was like, yeah, so my shot is coming up. And the show came up, and it was huge, and then my friends were like, what did you animate? I animated that dinosaur right there. I did, that was my shot. You do it because you love it. And it took me a really long time to get the trust of the supervisors to give me bigger shots. And you don't care, and you work your way up. Don't expect to be animating the big dinosaurs. You learn from the people animating the big dinosaurs, or the big characters, or the foreground characters, or whatever. If you are doing the background characters, just work as a team and know that it's a journey. So.
I mean, you probably all have heard that it's really hard to work in the VFX industry. I mean, I've been now in this industry 10 years, and I still haven't found this life-work balance everyone's talking about. It's really long hours, but also really rewarding. I don't want to put you all off, that's why I don't want to tell you like how horrible it is, because it's a blessing in disguise, right? So you work on a Marvel show, like on Ant-Man, you probably work 17-hour days for like 6 days a week for months, just to get it done, So it is you in the trenches with your guys, then your shot gets submitted, you worked on it for hours. It's like emotionally really, especially as artists, we are so sensitive, right? We are doing this for a reason, because we love the art, we love the movies. So I think we're all a bit more vulnerable than like a banker or a businessman. So it's kind of that you have to shield yourself, and like remember there's life outside as well. You sometimes just have to do these hours, but you have your team around you. It's a really great camaraderie, and then you see the movie coming out, and it's worth all the pain. But you definitely have to prepare yourself for some tough working conditions. It's some long hours and some quite emotional decisions that are made, when you get like notes, because especially nowadays, movie making it's changed so much in the last 10 years. My first movie was like Dark Shadows back then, that was still on film. They had a storyboard, they stick to it. Whatever the director wanted, it ended up being like that. But like people like Marvel with social media and fans complaining, they constantly change stuff, and you have to kind of get used to that. It's, I don't know, I can't tell too many secrets, otherwise, Marvel might getting angry, but it's the constant changes that you just have to roll with it. Don't get too attached.
Yeah, well, I kind of give example. When we start a movie, any movie, we start from red triangle, and we end up actually finishing with kind of blue square, which is actually not a square but a circle. So that's a final product. So it's always changing. Be ready to not take feedback personally. Never take it personally, even though supervisors can be very straightforward. We know the term of sandwich, right? You know that shit sandwich, right? So it's getting out of conversations because it's not productive. People trying to be direct, nice for sure, but you need to accept it that this feedback is not what supervisor wants. It's what director wants. It's what we get as a feedback. Sometimes people don't get it. Like why I'm changing this sky on this shot for 85 versions? Well, because they can't decide. And it's not my decision as a supervisor. Director wants it today, different sky. It's a different mood, whatever. It's his movie. And we providing service. That's why we call it vendors, right? We're providing service for a film company who producing a movie. And they can do whatever they want. For sure, there is a reasonable conversations and reasons for everything. And people are not stupid. Yeah. But it's long hours, which you actually can change. You're getting into industry with new knowledge. So many things happening right now. You need to learn, constantly learn, discover the world, learn what's going on, and technology and art and just nature. And simplify your days, be more productive during the day. That will help you not to work crazy hours. We still will be doing it. It's still like 16, 17 hours sometimes for a long time. Be prepared for that your body is actually you're human again. I'm always keep saying it. Remember about your age, the line which you should never cross, because it can be health issues after that. And I've seen it. I've seen people like conscious and stuff, and there's lots of things were happening like for those years. You need to know about it. You need to know your limits. And if you feel like, oh, I feel kind of it's too much work, take time off, and everyone understand it. In production, you have to remember about yourself as well. Because we need you to be healthy and productive. If you're tired and exhausted, there's no point being in a studio and trying to move mouse. If you're tired, it's wrong. Be ready for that. It's lots of things we're forgetting because we're concentrating on image. We want to make this image. We have targets. In the end, I mean, maybe MP will fire me for that, but listen, it's just a movie, right? We're not saving lives in hospital, okay? It's just a movie. Someone will fix it, okay? It's fine.
Yeah. Sometimes they treat it like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're like relaxing on a Saturday, and then you get a call. Oh my God, we need you to fix it. It's like, well, am I a cop? You know what? So sometimes they treat it like life and death, but and it feels certainly like it sometimes, you know, because everything is really intense. But in the end, as Vlad says, you know, it's just a movie, and it will come out, you know.
And we'll fix it somehow.
We'll fix it
Someone
somehow.
will fix it, so,
And yet, usually. Also, just another quick one. Don't get into the bad habit to do overtime all the time in the beginning. I think that's one thing that I would tell myself back then. You know, like on the ant farm, I don't know if you guys still have the ant farm at VFS. We were like living in there. And I thought, okay, this is how I have to continue doing things. But that way you don't learn how to be productive. And, you know, ideally, this is not a normal workday. Ideally, we do want to have a normal day. So don't get into the habit to think you have more time because you can just work the overtime. Just train yourself to be more productive and keep it in a normal day.
Sandra, it's good to hear your advice that what you would tell yourself now knowing, or what you would have told yourself back then, now knowing what you know. And I want to open that up to the remaining of you guys. What would you tell yourself when you were starting out in your career, knowing what you know now? Any, like, one or two pieces of advice?
I would say to myself, are you sure you want to get in there?
I think it's just knowing that, or learning how small the industry is, good or bad, like just making the right connections and knowing that pretty much every person you ever come in contact with could maybe one day potentially help or harm you getting a job. So always be nice to everyone you ever come in contact with.
I would say, I would tell to myself to not have potential sensitive conversations via text, email, or Slack, or Messenger, or any of that stuff. Face-to-face is always a two-way street. Internet, or email, there's 2 emails that I have sent in my entire career, and they were sent out of frustration. Sometimes, you run out of time, or sometimes you do the blame, which you don't do. You don't want to do that, and you just send an email just on the moment, and then a week later you are like, I don't have an undo button for that email. So just think before. When you're younger, you do a lot of stupid crap. So I would tell myself, just if there's something important, go to the person, call them on the phone, no texting, or meet if it's something critical.
Valuable insight. So one of the things I like is that all of you guys are from different studios, different size studios. And I want to ask you, knowing that the question of being a generalist or a specialist often comes down to different ways that studios are structured. And I want to ask you, when should students begin to think about whether they should specialize? And when in their thinking or early stages of their career do they need to really focus on that?
Yeah, I think times changed quite a bit since then, because I think when I got my first job, generalists were hired a bit more often, but nowadays specialists, that's all we like at Method, we definitely hire specialists more than generalists, especially because the technical advancements, so you can like pair it with something, if you like Comper, you can do map painting. If you do modeling, you can do texturing, but keep it close together, I would say. So it's also easier, I think, to build a reel that way. Because if you want to have like one big shot that has all aspects in there, why would you want to spend time on every single aspect when you can focus it on one special skill?
I think the world is changing. And I actually have opposite opinion of that. That yes, we do hire specialists in some area, right? So concentrating on compositing, for example. But I see with all these technologies, like how business is expanding. It's VR coming in, right? It's AR coming in. It's a lot of things where you need to not have this generalist knowledge. It's good to have it, and it's good to be specialized in something. Like for me, for sure, it's compositing, right? So, but I learned Houdini. I learned Katana, how to do lighting, how to do texturing, how to deal with all the stitches, VR and stuff, how to film it, how to deal with motion capture, which I also have. Because it's just knowing that will make you a good professional for the future. In next 5 years, the world's going to change. There's no more, like it's a recent study, like there's no more one job for entire life. Everything going to change. We don't know what's going to change, but our industry also will be affected by this. Because of so many technologies coming in, AI coming in, machine learning, all these things, world is changing. We need to be ready for that and just keep learning similar disciplines for comps like matte painting, lighting. They're close, and lighting might be gone soon as itself thing, because so many things can be automated and based on HDRIs and stuff, and you don't need to worry about this. But you still need to be professional in something. So a very good professional is something.
I mean, at the moment, we still need specialists.
We need, yes.
So, at least in the feature animation industry, I don't think it's changed much over the past at least 12, 15 years that I've been in the industry, where there may be some studios that want to see you have a couple of disciplines that are, like we're talking about before, that are related, but for the most part, having a concentration in one thing or another. I think it's all up to you as an individual of what you feel like you want to do, because, I always tell students, like, specializing yourself is putting yourself into this box of, like, I'm going to be an animator, and that's my job, and that's what I'm going to do 40 hours a week. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay, because you don't have to. There's other opportunities out there in the industry for you to do more than just be an animator, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So I think just as you're going through your school and you're in your sophomore year and starting to figure out like putting your reel together and applying for internships and things like that, that's probably a good time to start concentrating on which direction you want to go, generalist at first or specialist. And also know that like just because you choose a direction at one point in your school doesn't mean that that's where you're going to be forever. You know, I know a lot of people who kind of went into the commercial and generalist way, you know, for a few years after school and then eventually, you know, specialized from there. So you have plenty of years ahead of you to kind of get to that specialty, and that may not be something you want to do at first. But if you do want to do that and you do feel like, okay, I want to get into feature animation, I want to be an animator or a rigger or a modeler, then go for it and go hard towards that, because you have to be so on top of your game and have such a specialty for that artistic skill set that spend your time doing that and don't concentrate on just making a pretty scene in your reel because you just want to make a pretty scene. Concentrate on your model or your rig, whatever it is.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, my entire career, for me, I think one of my biggest mistakes has been mostly hearing what my heart says in terms of what to do, and I don't never really listen too much to my head. My head plays it safe. My heart goes, oh, wouldn't it be great to just do that? Quit your safe job, just do it. Just do it, don't worry about money, it'll be fine. And then my head, like years later, is like, that was stupid. Like, why would you do that? But the truth of the matter is, like, you do what you love. The last thing you want to do is get a job because it's what you think you should be doing, where you think you should be doing it at, and then be unhappy. That's just not worth it.
Couldn't agree more.
That's a good
Agreed.
one.
Yeah.
Happy, yeah.
What about international placements? We have panel up here from all different countries. Do you have any advice for students? You know, we're talking today sort of about the global VFX industry. How should international candidates be thinking about that type of barrier?
Well, I think it's always easy to come back when you have the experience. You know, we hire people from all over the world as long as they have the experience. So I think as a student, for me, it was definitely easier to get a job in my home country because I didn't have to apply for a visa. You know, you're a bit more cheap. And then after the experience, I think I worked like in Germany for 2 years, and then I was able to have a reel that could place me internationally. So it was just, I think it is always easy, especially in Canada. You know, visas are with experience and backup are easy-ish to get. See what happens in the future.
Well, at MPC, when we run academy here, right? So that was a great entry for students after graduating from all these schools, and it's still happening. I think in Montreal for animation, they're doing still doing quite a lot of things. Look for those opportunities. Get into through academy, and you will be trained by not only just the trainers. You will be trained by supervisors. And I did few academies here, and I've seen how many actually, you know, hungry eyes sitting in a room and like people willing to learn, and then seeing them being on the floor working on the shows after they graduated from academy. It's an opportunity. Look always for those options, and it's maybe not if you're here, right? So you already like have English skills and stuff, but I'm keep saying it. Don't worry about like level of your English or whatever. If it's enough for immigration, it's good. For us, we can even talk on like, you know, pantomime, like I don't know, shadow theater. If we can find the language to discuss the shots together, we don't care about this. And when I came to London in 2009, I barely speak English. I was literally doing a shadow theater, saying I move this to the right. And okay, they understand it. It was a little bit funny, but we don't care about this. Because what is cool about being international, and our studio as well international, we're hiring from all over the world, we're adding with all the cultural differences, all the different backgrounds, we're actually adding into the production something new, something what we learn from each other. Apart from human side being and stuff, we bringing something what, oh wow, I even didn't think about that, that's a cool idea. So remember about this and don't be shy, it's cool that we're all different, it's amazing. And Most of the problems, it's immigration, right? It's government rules of visas and caps of the money and stuff. But I'm pretty sure industry having some conversations with governments, like allowing, like people to get in, because it is important to bring a new talent into studios.
I mean, I can really only speak for people who want to get into the U.S. So some of my thoughts and tips on that are, one, go to a school in the U.S. because that will get you a student visa, which then will get you what is called an OPT after you graduate, and you can work for a U.S. Company for anywhere from 1 year to 3 years, depending on the company. That buys them time to actually apply for a long-term visa for you. So that's probably, I don't know, maybe one of the easier ways to get into the U.S. On a visa. If you didn't go to a U.S. school and you've graduated from a school outside the U.S., some of it is just experience, years of experience and things like that to qualify for a visa. If you're still going to school in a school outside of the U.S. and have an opportunity to create a film and get that film into festivals and things like that where you can win awards, those are things that help to kind of build your accolades to then qualify for a visa for the U.S. So I'm guessing something similar in terms of getting into Canada, that anything like that will only help you along the way. But the more you can get in terms of just, presentations, papers at SIGGRAPH, winning awards, things like that, those will all help to build on like experience and your skill level as well.
Nice. I have one last question, and then I'll open it up to you guys. So start thinking about what you want to ask. This is a high-level, broader industry trend question. We're seeing in the industry shifting trends around companies like Netflix and Amazon Studios. What does the rise of these companies mean for the VFX industries? And then more specifically, what do students need to know about these shifting trends? Is there anything that they should be doing to prepare or change their preparation?
We'll have less time to do more work. That's the reality.
And yeah, I think more high quality work as well. I feel like we also have Netflix movies at Method, and sometimes they are even more demanding and picky than Marvel ever was. And Marvel is like big theater releases, so they're, the directors on these movies are very, very creative. So they demand a lot of you. And I think it's also with that shift, be prepared to be out of work for a few months. It's like, that sounded awful, I'm sorry. No, so let me explain. There is like times when the industry just shifts, and sometimes, there's just a lull, and you just have to be prepared. Okay, movies, the next phase is gonna start like in January. Like in Marvel, we like a good Marvel house, we have a very good relationship with them. But, when they stopped making their movies, we just had to shift around and, work for different kind of timelines. And so sometimes it's just, I think it's a common industry thing that, we might just have to take off a couple of months and then we come back when Netflix schedules are starting up again.
I look at it from a positive standpoint, that it's creating more positions and more jobs for all of the students and schools that are producing students out there in the industry. From a studio standpoint, it's competition for talent. That could be difficult for us from a recruiting standpoint, but I look at it as there's just a need for more content, and that helps to feed this new wave of schools and people that want to get into this industry as the industry's growing. So hopefully it's a good thing.
It's also opportunity, guys. There's way more opportunities right now, especially with the streaming process of Netflix, Amazon stuff, and way more stuff happening on YouTube as well, which we're not aware of. World is changing again. Lots of things gonna happen soon, which we even don't know what it will be, but it will affect us. It will bring some work for us as well. It's opportunity. Don't think it's only bad things like lots of workload. It's lots of open doors as well.
Yeah, lots of work is good,
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm very excited about it. Like, I think the storyteller in me, like, really is excited for opportunities for other kinds of stories that streaming is starting to do. You know, there's a bunch of things coming up in the future that I was fortunate to be part of. And it's exciting that places like Netflix would take a risk, especially in animation, to do certain things. So I would say I'm excited about it. I think you guys have like a new world in front of you. I would also say, you know, this part is the head talking, just save money. Always, you know, just don't live on the thinking that you'll get a job at a safe studio and you'll be set for 10 years, 20 years. Just get used to like just you know, having the discipline to put money aside, because like they were saying, things are changing very rapidly, and you just don't know when you might not find a job for like half a year. You know, hopefully never, but just to be on the safe side, it's always good to be a little prepared, you know.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'm going to open it up to the audience to ask some questions. Beforehand, just really quickly, I want to give a special thank you to our sponsors for this event today, Lenovo, and I also want to invite Rob Hoffman, who's been hugely supportive for all things Foundry, but specifically for education. And so I just want Rob to come up quickly, just say a few words. Let's give him a round of applause. He made this happen.
Oh, thank you. Actually, that was the most beautiful setup for whatever we're going to do here. But before that, thank you, everybody, for coming. It's, you know, you've got some of the most talented individuals in the industry up here giving very, very, very important advice. So really take it to heart. You guys are the future storytellers. So continue, you know, stick at what you're doing. You know, follow your passion. Don't get discouraged, because we need you guys. We all need you. So, speaking of saving money, it's that time of the day where one of you guys, is there a Catherine Liu?
Oh, what?
Oh, what? Hey, guess what? You're going to save some money because you're getting a commercial license of Nuke.
What?
Yeah. And and also you're probably going to need a workstation to run it on, so we're going to give you a mobile workstation as well. So we just, so congratulations. And just so you know, you're going to be like the 4th person in the world to get one, because we just announced it yesterday. So we'll have it to you next week. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Congratulations. So with that, I want to open it up to you guys. You have this amazing pool of talent right up here. Any burning questions or anything that you are dying to ask them? We'll start here. Yeah. Go ahead.
First off, thank you so much for giving us your time. I think it was a very good talk. And this question goes out to everybody in the panel. And I wanted to ask, could you tell me about that period for you where you were trying to break into the industry and trying to get your foot through the door? Some of the problems that you faced, maybe some of the mistakes that you did, and some of the things that you could have done better. That's going to be my question.
I can answer. Well, no, there was no mistakes. It was all. It was learning curve. One advice I would probably give to myself back in time is just keep things simple. And it's okay to overcomplicate things when you're learning, when you're starting, because you just kind of discovering the process. After some time, you understand that this is just too big to maintain, to handle it. Just keep it simple. Simple things are great everywhere, in life and at work as well, and inside Nuke. Yeah.
Yeah, I think don't get discouraged when applications get declined. It's keep trying it, and I also would say change up your reel, even if it's like the order. So because if you resubmit your reel, sometimes we see, oh, it's been like that for a while. Sometimes we record the other ones, like the older ones as well. So it seems to be. I remember that I was really daunted when I graduated from VFS, but I just kept trying. And then if you have the experience with your reel, you will get a job somewhere.
I mean, I'm not an artist, so I didn't have that kind of experience. I interviewed, I got the job. It happened. But just from a recruiter standpoint and just from seeing people through the years, just make sure you're staying in contact with your recruiters and hiring managers that you've met through the years. Try to find a mentor in the industry. Maybe you meet them here at a conference. Maybe you meet them at a school. Just someone who can kind of give you guidance. And then don't get discouraged, because I can't tell you how many people I've met 5 years ago and saw their reel then. We gave them advice, and years later you see them again, and then years later you end up hiring them. So, in fact, we just had a panel yesterday where one of our people just said that he didn't get into Blue Sky for the first 7 years of his experience in the industry, and he applied every year for 7 years. So, sometimes it just takes a little while to get in. So just kind of keep trying, but make sure you're always working to improve your reel and what you have.
I'll just say, to look at it there'll be mistakes, but to look at it from the place of you just get up, you just keep going. Because sometimes some of those mistakes are actually building up to where you will end up at, your dream place or whatever that is. So just change that, that way of, it's just not really mistakes. It's just if you look at it differently, it's oh, all right, I messed up on that. How can I make it differently next time? But don't repeat what you did and then keep saying, okay, I'll do it differently next time. But then you keep on doing it. I would just say, learn from the mistakes, but be accountable for it, and get up and keep going.
Thank you.
There's another hand. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
My question was pretty similar. I just wanted to know, you were talking about periods of unemployment. I was just curious how long it took each of you to get your first job.
One interview.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Lucky.
Again, I'm not an artist, so totally different.
20
place.
interviews, 20 studios laughing at me in Russia, are you moron? What are you doing here? You don't know anything. You're wasting my time. I heard that. Well, and then I found one studio where I was needed. It's okay. Whatever. They're in the past, those guys. I even don't know if they're alive. I don't care.
Yeah, and for me it was one interview as well, but I think I was just really lucky to find that place that just needed someone like me. As far as unemployment, I think my longest stretch probably was 3 months, where I just needed to regroup as well. Sometimes in the industry, being as hard as it is, you just need a time where you just deflate and regroup, because it is quite demanding on body and mind. So I kind of didn't mind having that time, and I was just rebuilding my reel, spending a lot of time looking for studios I wanted to work at. But yeah, so that was that.
Since, just one more thing to add, since you're getting into any studio, it doesn't matter what scale of the studio, you start building your reputation and name. And people start talking about you. And that's how you actually can go through. Back in London time, when I came in, I had contract with MPC for 6 months, and they said, Vlad, we have a gap for 2 months. We can give you another contract, but it will be a gap for 2 months. And I was lucky that I found job right next, Monday, at Cinecide for those 2 months. And after I finished with Cinecide, those 2 months, we love working together. They come back to me in a week's time and said, Vlad, do you want to work with us in November? It was May. So I kind of had 2 years ahead of me booked with contracts. You building your name with your hard work, with your experience, or who you are as a person. That's how you can go through. But there is always can be a problem. Always can be early ending, and it doesn't mean that company don't like you. It's just something happens. The show been pushed. It's very expensive industry to keep artists this paid and not having any work. It's business in the end. We're forgetting about this as an artist, but in the end, it's a business for everyone, including us, including you. It's business, and money is the thing which need to remember.
For me, it was 5 rejection letters from Pixar. And every time that I would get a rejection letter, there was actually 2 of them that I actually put right next to my bed. And I would look at it, and I don't know if, I think the intention from it was that not to discourage myself, because it's very easy to get a rejection letter and be like, all right, well, then I'm not good for this shit. Sorry. I'm not good for this. I'm just not, I will never apply. Instead, it was like the way I approached it is I'm very, like if I'm told no, I'm gonna go for a yes, no matter how long it's gonna take. Like so my goal was like, okay, well the reel sucked. I get it, and it was many reels that really sucked. But with every reel, it was like, okay, well, you're gonna get another reel next year, and you'll give me the feedback, but it's gonna be a lot better, So you just, like I think rejection is always a dangerous word for me at least. So that's, that took a lot of, self-talking to myself.
Yeah. I think don't be scared to apply at the smaller boutiques, the no names, because I ended up at a really small no-name company where I found mentors that taught me everything I know about the industry. So don't be, scared to do that, and always go for the big names. And
with another quick thing, if some of your friends or whatever, especially like if it's not just a student project, there's lots of films, right, being filmed for like Raindance Film Festival, many shows happening. I probably help on 6 or 7 projects for free of charge. One of these projects was opening short film part in Cannes Film Festival. And it's all good for you. It's good for your karma, it's good for your experience, it's good for your name. And it's not only money, yeah? That also can help you to actually get into industry and being in like, within the connection. Because next time when those guys will have money, they will probably call you, say, hey, dude, we have money for now, like, do you want to work with us? It's going to happen. Give a little bit of those little deposits, they will come back to you as well.
There was one more thing too, if you guys don't mind. I was told no in one studio because of visa. I was told yes at first, and the team, were ready to hire me, and then it went to the lawyers, and then they found out because of my visa at the time, it would take me 7 months to be able to work in the US, and I was crushed. But thanks to that, I ended up in another place, smaller, like she was saying, and I had the time of my life. So keep in mind that, you want to go there, but sometimes some of the other roads might give you unexpected surprises and people along the way that will change your life. So.
I'm actually an instructor that I take portfolio classes, so I love hearing all this feedback because it kind of mirrors what I tell my students. But what do you suggest when you teach in a town that's not really based in the film industry, but we've got more games and VR coming up, visual effects, and they're all boutiques, or they all insist on doing contract work, so 1090, 90 people. What do you suggest for students moving forward into the freelancing side or the contracting side, how to better arm themselves in the freelancing market?
Well, freelancing is difficult market. You need to have your brain working in the way that you are a studio. You controlling your finances. You finding a job. It's not sitting at home on a Bali with a laptop, on the beach. It's really hard work freelancing. And especially when you have family and they think you sit at home. By the way, can you do this, and that because you're at home? Well, I'm working, but no, you're at home. Like, you can do it. I would say like take it really seriously before you go. Another aspect to it is the licenses, which are kind of costly, yeah, and price for licenses a lot. So, well, depends on which country, but still. So it's a hard one, not easy.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of school just to go directly into the freelance market is hard because part of being a freelancer is the connections you have and the connections you've built. I guess just arming them with being prepared that this isn't the easiest thing and that they need to get out and market themselves and almost make a brand for themselves out in the world. And it will get easier for them as they get more experience, but they just have to work hard at getting those jobs, to begin with, and researching them out.
Be ready not to get paid sometimes because money been delayed and something else, and handling your taxes really well, and then paying some fine. No, I would say no, don't do it.
Actually, I was going to add to what Vlad just said. It's like if you're freelancing, save money for taxes. So that by April 15th, especially those in the US, you don't come, you get there and your accountant is like, oh yeah, you owe this. What the hell did that come from? So just always be prepared financially.
Can we just dim the lights a tiny bit? It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
Asking the questions. Did you have a? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Almost all of you mentioned the long hours and the high intensity, high stress situations that you guys face in your work situations. My question is to all of you, how do you avoid creative burnout working in the trenches that much?
It's a hard one. It's really hard. You have to find something what actually, especially as a supervisor, right? You need to encourage people. You need to give them creative feedback, right? You giving all of this energy to people, and you have to find a way how actually balance yourself back. And it's friends or something like it's individual for everyone.
What helps me is watch reaction videos of the trailer that you worked on. Like on YouTube, it always gives me the chills. If you kind of get jaded and you don't even realize what you're working on anymore. But then when you take a step back and say, oh, what? I did just this trailer for this Marvel movie everybody loves. So that helps. And also the work-life balance thing is sometimes hard. But, for example, I work out a lot because I have like all that aggression and anger. So I just I go to boxing like twice a week. Something like that helps a lot as well.
Music. Vancouver Symphony Orchestra is amazing. Last year I was 25 times there, almost every second week. It's new conductor, beautiful, lovely. Unfortunately in Vancouver there's no classical fine art. It's all contemporary art, which is whatever. I mean, come on, photos they are references, right, for real world, how it's structured. And art, classical fine art, is what we do. Every frame we paint, we can cheat lights, we can cheat composition, learn from it, and that's why I can find something like what helps me. Anytime I leave Canada, I go to Russia or London or somewhere else, I spend half of my time in museums. Just like take it easy, watch it, get this energy connection. Internet won't give you that, won't give you connection with painting.
I think it's also kind of knowing yourself and knowing what your thresholds are, and being honest with yourself and your managers, and then also taking a look at the industry as a whole and getting advice from people who have been in the industry in different studios. And some studios are a lot worse with overtime, and some studios are a lot better, and trying to get a feel for like what you feel you can take on, and trying then to make the goal to get into one of those studios that you feel you'll be comfortable with, but then keeping yourself healthy, eating right, exercising, things like that. And, if you're working a week of 60 hours and then you feel like the next week you're burnt out, talk to your manager. Like, have an honest conversation, because at least just being honest about it helps.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember like running for PAN, I know, Dracula Untold. And I was working for like 5 weeks, crazy hours. And on Tuesday, I came in at work and said, guys, I'm done. I burn out. I need to go home right now. Otherwise, I'll be shouting here at everyone. You don't want to see me like that. And production said, look, Vlad, okay, see you tomorrow. Be honest, yeah, it will come. Not right now, because when you were just starting, you're still enthusiastic, you're young, you have energy and stuff. After 30, that will hit you really badly. Goes to 40, it's going to be even worse. Yeah, so it will come, but remember, we're human being, right? Edge, now we cross this line, because that can damage you.
Yeah, also take a lot of naps. Like, sometimes the creative juices you cannot predict when you are going to be in the zone. At least I cannot. There will be times that you have the 9 to 5 job, or 9 to 6, or 9 to 1 in the morning. And whenever I would try to force myself to be creative, sometimes nothing comes out. So it's much better to do those 2 hours of really focus good work than be like a zombie all day long. So keep an eye on your sleep, because without any sleep, the work will suffer.
I'm interested in when you're recruiting and doing hiring, when you're doing that kind of thing, how much do you take into context creative and artistic when you're looking at people's reels? Is it more holistic, where you say if somebody has slightly has the edge technically, but somebody else has broken from the more conventional exercises and has a better sense of color or composition in their stuff, even if it's for a very more specific technical position? Do you guys sort of take that into account, or is it just straight technical, you want to get people in and then see what they're like?
Well, we're all different, right? And that's cool, as I already said that. Someone have a great sense of color, and that's absolutely needed skills. We can train for technical things. We can train for them, techniques, it's all fine, it's experience. Some people have just natural, native kind of approach to something what I, for example, have to learn. So being different, it's cool. And we're looking for any type of talent. And people need to know how to put good image together if they want to be compositors, for sure. They need to understand composition and lots of other rules. But we all have different skill sets, different experience and knowledge, and it's fine. It's cool. It's good.
I think also it so depends on the discipline that you're applying for and what they're looking for. But some of it also depends on timing in terms of what even that discipline may be looking for at that time. So some of it is just luck in terms of that timing of, at this point, we're looking for someone who does have a little bit more of that technical skill set in this discipline, and sometimes we're looking for someone who's a little bit more on the artistic side, because it's just a balance of the team and what we need at the studio at the moment. So just be yourself and just put your best work forward, because that's all you can do. You can't worry about what we're looking for at that time, at that moment, but just put your best work forward and apply to a lot of places.
Oh yeah. All studios, sent to all studios. In London, when I came into London, I sent it by post, I brought it to the reception, and I filled up application online. All options, use all of them, whatever you can. Just to be heard.
I will also add to that, I became very good friends with some of the recruiters in a couple of the studios, and when you are a very sometimes you want a job, and learn to know when to back off from the recruiter, because when you send 400 emails in one day, maybe the recruiter is still looking at other stuff, and but maybe get the hint that maybe they're not interested in you, and keep looking in other places, So you'll have to learn to balance that. But I've seen, some situations where, it can hurt your chances to ask one too many times more than just letting the studio do their thing. When I was hired at a big studio, I had the interview. No, I sent my reel in November of 1 year, and I didn't have the interview until June of the following year. So I was working in other places, and I had honestly given up. Like I was like, oh, well, that's not gonna happen. And then June came, and then they called me. So just learn to pace yourself.
So, of course, it's so important to keep up with new technologies and techniques. But my question is, do you see any benefit in continuing with a formal higher education, such as through graduate schools?
I'm an engineer with my background. My diploma was, I built it up, I was with the team of people, we're using RFID cards to open doors. That was my diploma I've written at university. I use lots of knowledge of what I learned for optimization of the process, to simplify it, to automate it. All of this is coming from my engineering background. And I think more people study, more disciplines they know, it will just make them stronger. If you think about any type of visual effects we create, it's not abstract things. They're based on some either physical rules and knowledge, but to know where to go into which discipline or part of the science, you need to be aware of that. And more you know, it's easier for you to actually establish a language which director will understand how this effect works and what it should be, and then you can actually transform it to the process and how to create it technically. But first of all, you need to bring logic and knowledge, which you have to learn. It's not just the pressing buttons, fortunately, because, like, for example, in compositing, we researching world every day. I talk to my artists, it's take your camera, go and shoot outside right now to the mountain and see how the haze is working. And what is actually in between the furthest point out of, like, in your photography and the sensor. It's a lot of things happening. There is a optical effects, there is a lens distortions and how they come in. There is a sensor. There's so many things happening when this image is actually just you pressing a button. So, but you need to know how it works and just constantly studying it. But basic education is important to, it's not what you're studying, it's just to learn how to learn. That's what is most important skills you need to kind of develop. How to study, keep studying constantly. And especially in our times when, like, everything is available, one click, and so many information is free. Just, yeah, so it is very important.
I think it depends on also, like, what you want out of your life, and, like, do you want to teach? Because if you want to teach, then yeah, you probably need a master's degree. But it also depends on where you want to go. Do you want to leave your home country and go to another country, and that might help you with a visa? But there's people who, studied something completely outside of the animation industry, self-taught, themselves, or took an online course and got themselves, to a place where their reel was good enough to get them a job. So it really just depends on, like, what you want to do with that degree and what it'll do for you. So I feel like half of my advice today has just been, like, believe in yourself and follow your own dreams and your heart.
Sometimes I wish I had another degree, but I went just to film school. But it's kind of comforting to know that you know something else beside this, because if it ends up not being your cup of tea, which is likely, it might be that you had just needed plan B and then you would have it.
Or plan B is a big talks in VFX industry. Especially after 10 years, you guys start talking to your friends, I need a plan B, and I don't have it. And in the end of the conversation, you will understand, so whatever you're going to do, you're going to hate it in another 5 years. So what's the point?
Yeah, it comes in phases, I had so many conversations with, like, compers, especially because we are at the end of the pipeline, so it's harder on them. I want to be a barista. It always comes up after a project, but then, you take some time off, you deflate, and then, get your energy back, and then you're, like, eager to work again. It's just you need a bit of time after you, like, a high stress phase, and you miss it.
Yeah.
it's like a love-hate relationship.
I want to be sure that we leave some time for you guys to network with them yourselves. But are there any sort of remaining burning? Maybe we can do you two, and then we'll break so that you guys can chat.
Since we have film studio and animation studio here today, I have a question: is that how do you think about the difference between stylized and realistic? Like for the film studio, are you willing to see some stylized works in the demo reel or portfolio? And for the animation studio, like is it the more realistic portfolio suitable for your for the animation studio? Yeah, or you want to see some stylized things?
I think part of that is knowing your audience and who you're applying to, and watching at least pieces of the films that have come out from that company and understanding their style. So yes, like for us, because we're a feature animation studio, we want to see that 90% of your reel is focused around the kind of work we do. Because when we see a reel that's just like completely creatures and, it's just like a modeling reel, it's just like all creatures and realistic humans and things like that, it's like, well, that's probably what you're interested in. Why would you want to like work on stylized characters and fluffy, animals and things like that? So seeing that you can also like hit a stylized character in a model and get the shape language and everything that you need from the design aspect into your model is important. So I'd say when you're applying to different studios, know what their breadth of what they do is, and then focus most of your reel in that place. So I think just having multiple reels helps too, in terms of like being able to apply one place or another, and seeing like, oh, you can also do that. It's great, but that's not what's going to get you the job here or there.
For visual effects, it's especially for compositing, it is important to have photorealistic shots in your show reel. Even though I came in from animation, and I did animation commercials and festival films for 10 years, and it was classical drawing animation films. But with that show reel, I would never go into any VFX studios, even in Russia, whatever, because it's different skill sets, it's different eye, it's different knowledge. In animation, it's different. You control entire world, entire image. In VFX, we stuck to the plate. There is lots of limitations. There are lots of things which are specific for films, and it's really hard. It will be almost probably hard, or really difficult to get in just if it's only animation films. There's another step, it's TV and film, which are closer to each other, but still it's different skill sets. Same as commercials, it's different skill sets. Because commercials, it's a sprint. Yeah, film, it's a marathon. Now it's kind of sprint speed, but distance this is really long. But it's different knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, I think it also depends, again, what you said, timing as well. So we had a couple of instances where we hired a comper that had only feature animation comps on there, but because it was a really long sequence, and we needed someone who could just bash out comps really quickly, so that we hired that person. So it depends really on the need as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for coming and sharing all this information. My question is more towards comp, because that's what I do. It's a little subjective, but what is it something personal that you would like to see on a junior comp reel?
Good king. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't expect CG, whatever. It's hard to get it, it's hard to find whatever assets. Good king shots, reprojections in nuke, yeah? So that basics, but in a good quality.
Know your tech checks. That's really important. So especially also when you come to an interview and you might be asked the questions of what do you do to check your QC, is do you do gamma slamming? Do you check your edges? Do you check the grain? So that in an interview and on a reel, just be technically as correct as possible, even if it's small shots.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go for it. Can you talk more about your company culture, a little bit about the company culture, and what's the fastest way to learn your company culture?
Well, so just going back quickly to the stressful environment. The thing is, it's the best time, really. It's because the amount of teamwork and that you're in the trenches together, it bonds you. It's like you have some. I can't tell because I've never worked outside the film industry, but I think your coworkers, the relationships that you have with them, they're a bit more intense because you're just on the floor with them all day. So it's that also helps with the stress, because you're all in it together. It's I feel like in Canada, since I've worked in Canada, the sense of competition is actually not as big. It's very inclusive, I find. Everyone kind of wants to learn from each other, which, when I've been in companies in Europe, it was not as like that. It was very competitive, which I kind of really like the feeling here in Canada. Everyone is so eager just to learn from each other.
Yeah, I agree. It's most like Russian, in Russia with people, oh no, I'm not going to show anything. At MCI, I worked in London, I work here as well. But it doesn't matter which company is it, right? The world of VFX is small, as I already said, and we're all from all different countries. And it's actually lots of fun happening on the floor when we work together really hard. We're always supportive. It's always team. It's never one person. It's never one supervisor did the show. It's the huge amount of people together. And as more supportive you are, with your friends, you will get it back. And people doing it. You're absolutely right. I see that we're sharing so many things. And when I train people, I want to them know everything I know, because then my day will be easy and I can go at 6 o'clock home, which is almost impossible, but 6:15, yes. But it's cool, it's great, it's hard work, but some people, we still friends. We all live in different part of the planet. We still have a group chat, which we started in 2009, and we're still talking Google chat to each other, sending jokes and discussing 8 people there. Amazing. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, you will have probably in other companies as well, you'll get a work buddy that kind of just show you the ropes of the company. It's a pipeline is not as complicated. It depends on what part you're actually in. But you learn that quickly, There are tools that you can tutorials that you just, learn that quickly because, as Vlad says, we want you working as soon as possible.
And it's good to have pipeline. It's better than not having pipeline, because some studios don't have pipeline, and that's harder. When it's pipeline, it's at least some rules there, and you just learn them. I switch lots of different pipelines, and pretty similar. Idea is similar. The execution is different, right? The way of how it works. It's fine. Couple of studios, and you will understand any other pipeline easy. It's not the hardest thing.
I guess just to piggyback on that, yes. And we have a creative, collaborative, great atmosphere and culture at the studio. I think also in animation, we don't work as crazy hours as visual effects, so we have a little bit more work-life balance, which is nice. But usually when a new person starts, their department hooks them up with a mentor in their department, and that person helps to get them through whatever tutorials and things like that to get them ramped up in the department. So usually it's a one-on-one type of thing that gets someone ramped up into the pipeline.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add to what everyone is saying. I would just say, just be respectful, be helpful, and be nice to everybody. It doesn't matter whether it's a director, or an intern, or a PA, because one day maybe that intern might become your supervisor. So always be nice, helpful, and respectful to everybody you work with.
You guys, one of the things that you heard today is that the lives of these people is incredibly busy. So let's just give them another thank you.